Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Playing the Meta, which is a series that I use to feature the best builds in the game currently. I use this series as a reference for players who may be unfamiliar with these fairly standard builds or need to know how to play them. Today we'll be looking at the Dakka Blood Asp. I actually talked about this build a little bit in my initial Blood Asp review, which I will link in the description, but I never fully showed you guys how strong it is. Recently I've been preferring this over the Mad Cat Mark II-B for several reasons. First, I think the Mad Cat right now draws too much aggro, and having lower mounted hardpoints means that enemies have a lot more time to shoot back. I don't know exactly why this is happening all of a sudden. The Dakka Mad Cat isn't a new build, but the increased return fire is noticeable. The Blood Asp ECM helps you avoid attention, which is also great. The high torso mounts means better convergence when you're shooting at mid-range, and you can also shoot above teammates sometimes, whereas the Mad Cat needs more clearance for its arm weapons. Lastly, while the Mad Cat's arm-mounted weapons are an asset, they're also sometimes turning into a liability since you can't arm shield. People have also been learning how to de-arm the Mad Cat, which is not too hard to do. So for the last couple of months or so, I've had to pilot the Mark II-B a little bit more conservatively, whereas the Blood Asp allows me to be more proactive. Let's take a look at the build specifics. The standard build always features 3 UAC 5s on the right torso and 1 UAC 10 on the left torso. My little optimization is the 3 ER cells on the right arm. The build runs cool if you only use the UAC, so with that extra heat capacity, you can do a little bit more burst damage if you're making a side peek. Not all positions on every map allows for hill peeks, so sometimes you'll need to peek aside, where the arm weapons can help. The ER cells also help with shooting down UAVs, which negate the effectiveness of your ECM. Avoid the lasers if you're running hot though, since your ACs, especially the 5s, have better damage per heat. I think the only reason not to use the lasers is if you run out of ammo more than maybe 20% of the time. From my experience with 6 tons of UAC 5 and 2.5 tons of UAC 10, and both magazine capacity nodes, running out before the very end of the match is uncommon. Running out of ammo occasionally at the end of the match is actually a good thing because it means you haven't wasted tonnage. You can do this build on the A variant as well since it also has ECM. You'd have to give up 2 tons on something like lasers, heat sinks, or ammo for that JJ. I don't use the JJs all that much, so I don't think it's really worth it, but it's up to you. Another version of the build goes with dual 10s and 5s, but this has 2 drawbacks. First, a single UAC 10 has less DPS than 2 UAC 5s, so you end up with less high mounted firepower. Second, NASCARs means that your left side is more vulnerable than your right. In the standard build, if you lose the UAC 10 on the left, you still have the firepower of a Clan Heavy. We'll actually see an example of this in my demos later on. This build has the potential to do more damage, but is more risky as a result. The way to play this is pretty simple. During map selection, pick maps that have a lot of ridges to peek over, like Polar Highlands, Rubelite Oasis, and Terra Therma. Mid-range maps are better than close-range maps because you can outrange a lot of builds in a solo queue. Urban maps like Crimson Straits and New Frozen City are kind of neutral. The mech being right stat can also deal with NASCAR maps like Canyon and Grim Plexus. The worst kind of maps are like Mining Collective, where it's a short-range DPS and armor battle. One of the reasons why the Blood Asp is good is because its low exposure requirement and ECM doesn't draw much attention. Short-range brawl maps like Mining doesn't allow you to maximize those advantages. In general, I try to stay a little ahead of my other assaults to start using my range early on in game. A lot of times you can get in a lot of damage before the enemies have had time to settle into a position. When you're getting shot back, try to protect the right torso as much as possible since that's the mech's biggest weakness. If you need to lose a side, give them the left, although it's best to avoid any kind of return fire. You can win most 1v1 situations, so go ahead and face tank low DPS builds if you need to, but don't try to face multiple mechs. You have to get used to the amount of torso exposure you need with this mech. The biggest problem I make, and I'm sure most of you guys will make, is to peek too much out of cover. Since the lowest UAC you have is cockpit level, you can shoot pretty much anything that you see. In the skill tree, I'm going to prioritize cooldown and get the 2 magazine capacity and UAC nodes in the firepower tree. Get most of durability, get partial cool run, and get the 2 ECM nodes. Okay, let's see this in action. This match on Polar Highlands started off a little weird because I disconnected at the beginning of the match. If you look at the minimap right now, I'm pretty separated from my team. I was able to rejoin after like maybe a minute or so. So I kind of want to, as you see, there's a direwolf with me at I7. It's an AC2 ultraviolet build. My intention here was to actually go and rejoin the team because it's kind of a risky position here. I was trying to not attract too much attention, but I ended up. That's why I didn't start shooting at the enemies as soon as I saw them. But I've already started attracting attention from that Jenner. The Jenner I don't know, maybe reporting my position over to his friendly. So I think it was a better decision to turn around and then rejoin the direwolf and try to wait until that NASCAR turns around and then can shoot either their backs or their side. This is also a quite risky move, but I do have some support from the direwolf here. He's not going to be able to move faster than I am, so he's going to be my support over at J8. So we're a little bit better off than if I was alone. And as you can see, the enemy actually did rotate all the way across the map, and both the direwolf and I are able to start getting back shots on the enemy. And we're able to take a lot of good shots in the back. So you can see like even the UX sometimes can be inaccurate, you know, if your target makes sudden elevation changes or makes sudden turns, then you know your lead even at like 450, 500 meters can get messed up because of sudden changes in movements that you didn't predict. You could have seen like in the beginning, maybe just even a minute ago, like we were down 1-4, but because of the you know, the direwolf and I shooting their backs, and we just got ignored. We're able to turn around this match to a pretty close level. And we're just like getting free damage on these mechs right now. All the way up till, you know, when our team at the center has pretty much been obliterated, then we start getting attention. But I'd imagine here the direwolf is pretty fresh. I don't know what his status is right now, but he's probably not too hurt. The huntsman comes in for a 1v1 and he gets annihilated. I mean, the huntsman has a big alpha with SRMs, but like he just doesn't have the armor to tank all that return fire. We're pretty close, and I think right now the direwolf's out of ammo. That's why he's not shooting, or he doesn't have any weapons left. But the Jenner is an LRM Jenner, which is kind of an interesting build. I mean, you see it sometimes, but like it's not that good. But I am close to running out of ammo on my 5s, so that can be a little bit problematic, but I have the lasers to back me up. Actually, against this Jenner, I think the lasers are probably better than the 5s because, again, you know, even at this short range, the 5s the autocannons can miss like that. You see, if he makes like a sudden turn. And even though my lasers, you can see it's not that accurate, it's still, you know, doing a little bit of damage at a time. I think he's out of ammo now. So we just need to finish him up. Yeah, as you can see, like, just sudden turns. You need to lead the light, but just a little bit of a turn and something, your autocannons can miss even at those short ranges. The direwolf and I did a lot of work in this match. So this one is a more standard match. I didn't disconnect in the beginning of the game. But as I said, with range mechs, you want to try to get into the fight early to start using your range advantage over other mechs. And as you can see, I'm pretty much ahead of everybody here. I think I'm probably the first to take a shot at the enemy. So we're in a pretty good position. We can use our high mounts to peek over this ridge here and start taking shots. This bushwhacker is a little bit of a problem because he's a dual ultra 10 bushwhacker, can put out a lot of damage. So we need to just get back into cover. Now you can see also from my perspective how hard it is to get good shots on him because of that small frontal profile. So we continue to abuse this position and get shots on the enemy position without taking that much return fire. And the bushwhacker is aiming at me again, so I need to back off. Now the enemy has rotated to the center already, which is actually another pretty good position for us. We can peek over this center platform and take really good shots. Here you can see like the Blood Asp, another standard Blood Asp build without the lasers. We've put out, I don't know, my estimate is probably about 500, 600 damage already without turning red armor at all, so we're doing pretty good. But my team is starting to rotate, and I don't want to get caught out here, so I'm gonna have to rotate with my team right now. There's a group of enemies over Charlie 2 that's not being dealt with. That's kind of a risky position for them because they're not with their team and they're not supporting them right now. So, you know, having only 3 mechs there also makes them vulnerable to getting flanked by our mechs. So the mechs back there shot out one of my UAC 5s. And you can also see like my UAC 10 just went. So I have half of my mech still putting out a good amount of damage. But like I said, I don't like the double 10, double 5 build because of that how vulnerable that left side is. You can also see that right now I'm having to rely on my lasers a little bit more as the match gets close. I even took out the Annihilator with the lasers. So I think they're useful. Like I think it's definitely worth putting on the lasers. It's a very close match thus far. You can see here I'm able to shoot down with my arm weapons.
Not last one, but Charlie 2. Last one, Charlie 2.
Okay, just need to finish the last guy. And the bushwhacker needs to die. He's a XL build, so I told my team just try to XL check him. I might do a build video on the dual UAC 10 bushwhacker later on. It's a pretty good build.
Or not.
Okay guys, if you like this series, I'll post a link to the Playing the Meta playlist in the description so you can check out MetaMechs past and present. If you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel and I'll see you next time.